Hey, it's Coach Callaway. You're at the right place. We got a great video for you today. This is part of our video playbook series. We're going to be discussing a quick game passing concept that we call Quake. It's actually lesson number 2 in the Quake series. We have 3 lessons in the Quake series. Quake Basic, we encourage you to go out and take a look at that. Quake versus different coverages, which is today's lesson, and Quake Advanced for even more detail on the play we call Quake. But hey, real quick before we get to the lesson, I want to make sure that you comment and give us a thumbs up or thumbs down whether you like the video or not. It's really important that we hear from you. So take just a second after you watch the video today and give us that thumbs up and leave just a brief comment so we know how we're doing here at Callaway Football. So let's get to it. Roll the intro. All right, Coach, welcome to Callaway Football Video Playbook Series. This is lesson number 2 on a quick game passing concept that we call Quake. This lesson today will focus on Quake versus different coverages. As I mentioned, Quake is a passing concept in our quick game. There's 3 lessons in the Quake series. If you have not seen Quake Basic, we want to encourage you to watch that. There's some information on that lesson number 1, Quake Basic, that is really needed to understand what we're going to talk about here today. Today's lesson, as I mentioned, is Quake against different coverages, and then there's a 3rd lesson called Quake Advanced that gets even in more detail and more advanced things about motions and tags and formations and things that gives you a little bit more information and detail on how to run Quake. So again, there's 3 lessons in the Quake series: Quake Basic versus different coverages and Advanced. Real quick review of some of the stuff we put in the basic lesson, just real quick. First off, in our quick game, like a play like Quake, we're running 90 or 91 pass protection series. Blocking scheme. So 90 is a offensive line will slide to the right, 91 they'll slide to the left. Running back lines up opposite that protection call, has protection responsibility first, and becomes a check down. So the graphic's pretty simple. Offensive line sliding to the right with 90 because it's a even number series, and then so the running back would have opposite that outside pressure or B gap blitzer. 91 is just flip it, offensive line sliding to the left with running back having B gap to outside protections. The wide receivers themselves, the inside wide receivers, which are our H and our Y, they run that 3 to 5 yard speed out, and our outside wide receivers, our X and our Z, run a vertical route with an outside release, and again, that running back has pass protection first, then to check down, becomes a check down receiver for the quarterback third. Now, let's talk about how to run that against cover 3. So we know as coaches, cover 3 is a 3 deep coverage. Your defensive backs have a deep third responsibility, so your corners have outside the hash deep third responsibility. So this corner is usually responsible for the deepest receiver on the field outside the hash mark to the sideline, same as the right side cornerback has deep third responsibility outside the hash to the sideline, and the safety in the middle of the field has middle third responsibility, anything deep. So they're really trying to protect, again, you can see my mouse here, they're trying to protect against anything deep across the whole entire field with these 3 defensive backs. So what that means is the hole defenders, or the outside linebackers, you can see my mouse here, like this dog or this rover over here on the right, they are responsible for the flats. And so when these inside receivers see this type of defensive formation, they've got an inside leverage lineup. We know strategically we've got an advantage right here. So our receivers on the inside are running this 3 to 5 yard speed out. The way we coach this is, hey, we want to push vertical 3 yards, gaining speed, and at 3 yards we start to bend this route, and then we flatten it out at the 5 yard mark. We don't want them drifting or going any deeper than 5. So start to bend at 3, flatten it out by 5, and then race to the sideline. And we want them to accelerate as they start to bend this and start picking up and gaining speed as they go through this turn and bend it and then push and accelerate to the sideline. And it puts a ton of pressure on these hole defenders, especially when they start with an inside leverage type of formation. We feel we've got a good matchup there, and we like to run Quake and hit that 3 to 5 yard speed out against cover 3 with an inside leverage hole defender. Against cover 2, it creates a little bit more challenge for us. Cover 2 is a good defense to deploy against Quake. It takes away the flat typically, and it also prevents our outside receiver to get that outside release or get a clean outside release anyway. So cover 2, let's just talk about the defensive philosophy of cover 2. The cornerbacks here on the left and the cornerbacks here on the right, they are responsible for, first off, lining up outside leverage, getting their hands on a receiver and funneling that receiver to the inside. So that's their priority. Make sure you get your hands on the receiver. Make sure you get them funneled to the inside so that it gives their safeties the opportunities to get over the top of that receiver and pick them up as they gain depth, because the cornerback will, after he funnels them inside, will then have flat responsibility. So most cover two defenses, the cornerback's going to protect anywhere from 7 or 8 yards of depth to the sideline outside the hash mark into that flat area as he's going to pick up. So he would pick up that speed out, and the receiver, or the safety would try to get over the top and pick up that vertical route. So it's a pretty good defense. If they run it successfully, it really takes away the Quake concept. However, one of the things that you got to tell your quarterback is, hey, number one, the quarterback must recognize cover two. And if these safeties are really deep, if they seem to play deeper or loose and get into a back pedal, we can drive the vertical route into the hole. So before they get too deep, we'll tell the quarterback, hey, if you notice a loose playing safety that's in a back pedal, once he clears that cornerback and gets up the top of the numbers, go ahead and put a fastball on him and a line drive right into this hole and hit that vertical at the 7 to 10 yard mark, and we usually have some success with that. Or we may just like our matchup here. We know our guy's better than their guy, and he's not going to get over the top because our receiver is winning the outside release battle. Even though the cornerback's trying to get him inside, we feel we've got a good matchup, and we can still get a nice outside release and stretch this play wide, make it hard for the safety to get there, get to that type of width. So those are two things that we can do. Or you can just tell your quarterback, hey, if we've got a cover two look and Quake, we can just audible to a run. A lot of things we have we'll default, hey, if we've got a cover two look, let's go ahead and run the ball. We can just audible the play. It would be another option, obviously. Another thing you can do against cover two to put some stress on a deep half safety is go into a trips formation. So we call it jag. Our trips formation is jag. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the advanced lesson, but briefly, if you go into a jag look, it's going to put a lot of pressure on a safety that's responsible for half the field, because remember, we've got a vertical route up the numbers, and we bring a third receiver into the formation and bring a vertical route down the hash. Now we've put a lot of pressure on this safety. Which vertical route is he going to cover? He can't cover both, so that gives us some advantage right there. And we may even tell our inside receiver, hey, you can stay vertical down the hash, or you can even break it off to a skinny post. We may give them that option based on the type of play this free safety is doing. But typically this free safety is going to drop over the outside receiver, and this Mike backer is going to try to backfill the middle of the field when he reads pass. So a seam route down this hash mark and staying wide typically is a good option against a cover two look. Now against man coverage, it's real simple. We like man coverage because we're going to find a defender that we think we've got an advantage on based on personnel. So if they're locking up on our receivers right here, we're going to say, hey, my guy's better than your guy right here, and we're going to go ahead and run Quake, and we're going to hit Y on this speed out because we don't feel that your Sam linebacker or your hole defender can cover him, or vice versa. Maybe the Z is a good thing. We don't think this guy can run vertical with our guy. So man coverage, we're just going to pick on the defender that we feel we have an advantage to go get. So we like running Quake against that. Another thing you can do against man coverage by formation is go stack. So this is, you can see up here, this is called Stack 91 Quake. We'll stack our receivers. So when they're in man coverage, when you stack your receivers, it makes it a little more difficult and puts a little more pressure on those defenders, how they make their alignment and how they switch off based on the routes. So we like running it against that. Sorry about that. The screen jumped on me. But Stack 91, you see your X and your Z's by formation always line up on the line of scrimmage, and your H and your Y always line up off the line of scrimmage. So this is what our stack formation looks like. We run that vertical, and then right behind it, we're running that speed out. So it's it creates a lot of pressure on these two guys here to make the right decisions. And then we also will line up and run it ace tight 91 Quake. So ace tight is a different formation right here. You can see in our ace formation, our X and our Z is typically out on top of the numbers, and our H and Y are typically on the hash. But in ace tight, we just tighten up those inside receivers, and we kind of stack them or get them snugged up against our tackles here. Again, just giving us against man coverage, this gives us some opportunity for some space to work. So when we're out here, if we're in man coverage, they may get up on us tight and cause some release problems. But when we bring them into here, they can't jam us and they can't get their hands on us real easy. So we like running ace tight out of a man coverage type of defensive scheme as well. It just gives us more grass to work with to run the Quake route. And then finally, we may use some motion. So this is jag left H move 91 Quake is what the play is I'm illustrating here. So jag left is our trip formation to the left, and we've got an H move call, so that's a pre-snap motion. So quarterback brings this guy in motion. Once he clears the center right here, we're going to snap the ball. So our H is going to be on the move, and when the ball snapped, he's going to turn up and run that 3 to 5 yard speed out with a lot of velocity and speed here because he's coming in motion. So again, that's going to put a lot of pressure on a hole defender or a linebacker that may be responsible for picking that up. If the defensive scheme is they're going to roll that safety down, when they see motion, that's fine as well. Since we're on the move, we feel we're going to have the advantage in the grass and have the proper leverage we need and the speed and tempo we need on this route to make that happen. So that's how we combat different defensive schemes as we run the play Quake. So I hope that helped, Coach. All right, that wraps up Lesson 2, Quake versus different coverages in our Quake series of lessons. Don't forget, there's a third lesson called Quake Advanced. It is a much more detailed look at Quake. We talk about running Quake out of different formations. We talk about how to audible the play at the line of scrimmage, how to use tags, and play action. It's something that you want to take a look at and get all the information you can to be successful on game day with the play we call Quake. But hey, real quick, before you click off, make sure you give us that thumbs up and like the video and leave a brief comment and let us know what you thought about today's lesson. So until next time, I hope to see you on the field.